side, left without the roads network. Again, the roads, crisscross and cut my green infrastructure. So we had to find a way we could resolve this, and back to the idea of the water, the grey water, and for the black water, you bring it out of the water back to the ground in a natural way, in using constructed wetlands. So these are biases to bring water back to the ground, and then for the constructed wetland, this is a constructed wetland, it's a series of ponds. That is a natural way for treating black water. So the water goes from one side to the other side, but when it reaches the end, it is almost potable, about 6.5 meters. It releases all the buildings, it's covered. Here you can put one building, another building without getting wet. And then within this area of the park, of course, we have the park walk. And these are different ways of bringing people up to the ground, through stairs and escalators, escalator and elevators, or stairs and escalators alone. This is the top view of these are very easily which are at this location. So that in this way, vegetation continuously not within the site, but outside the site. This is existing site, and we bring all these together through this network of patterns. Then we start to look at the built environment, how about engineering, and this is the scheme of digital data set from Scandinavian company, and this time what the resources start, goes around to the other side, goes around to the back, to the front again, it comes back again in a continuous route through the whole site, because continuity is very important, because in nature of fertilizers and nutrients. The atrium for this, the entry block, the lift block is naturally ventilated, and on the top, to give the power to this, we put photovoltaic, series of photovoltaic panels, and this is the energy used on this building, 150 kilowatt per square meter, compared to the typical office building, which is not that satisfactory. This is the emission reduction. So now designing a low energy building then is part of the technology that we do. Now let's say you're in a temperate climate, you have a very cold winter and a very hot summer, and in between you have two very nice seasons swinging autumn. And so green design for me starts with passive mode. Then we try to shake the building, try to orientate the building, try to start the building. And in this way, you can see the white dotted line. We can improve conditions a bit more from the outset, but not that much. What we should try and do is start with using renewable energy sources, so that we are not dependent on full mode systems that's existent, all existing independent. So that's what we did achieve with most buildings. But if you look at the projection,
one that I think we are blessed to have, because I think knowing better will mean we will act better. So, Sanjay, thank you for joining us. I know it was a very last minute thing, but you've been very gracious and kind to accept this and have this conversation with me. I hope to discover a lot through you, and I hope that some of the people seated here will understand why I do what I'm doing relentlessly.
Yes, actually I had to cancel something, but anyway.
Aren't you happy you had to cancel it? You get to talk to me, Sanjay.
I'm very happy.
Good.
Why do you think I cancelled it? So I was told that you're going to have this conversation that you sent across. That was brilliant. Those the iPads moving and the words across. So the message there was that recycling is really important, and she's actually, there's so many causes that she's fighting for that it's really interesting to know. And then I found out that her father is an.
That's true. I grew up amidst models. Not the variety that I eventually became, but the ones that everybody in this room knows really well. Sandpapering furniture, understanding design, and I actually have to share something very personal with you today, which I think will put into perspective my need to do what I do, and to use the opportunity of the platform that life has provided me with, which is communication, to help improve people's awareness about climate change, about the need for sustainability, and create an environment of harmony and balance. My father didn't want to have a child. He had decided over 35 years ago that he would not produce a child because he believed that the world was going to hell and that he thought it was unfair to bring an innocent being into a world in which I would like to bring an innocent being into. And especially because I'm an urban dweller. I live in the city. I can't afford to up and leave to the mountains or to a greener environment that would have cleaner air and cleaner water. But I live here, in the midst of a concrete. I hate to use the word jungle because jungles are so beautiful. I don't know why concrete spaces are called jungles. Because they don't really reflect the truth that the jungle does. And that one unifying truth is that every living being is connected. So I can't up and leave. I'm living here. I have to deal with the serious threat that I think every urban dweller is dealing with, which is the risk to health, the risk to life, and the risk to progress in our truest sense. And I hope that our conversation here today, Sanjay, will give us the opportunity to explore how much better can we do, and why it's important for us to do better. I really want to discover some of the challenges that you face as an architect in convincing people why it's important and pertinent to create an ecological balance in development, in the living spaces that you create for people. Because I think that what becomes very, very evident every time there is any kind of discourse on environmental conservation or finding a balance, or when development is discussed, people say there will always be collateral damage. Trees will be cut for roads to get built. That is the collateral damage. And it's always a conversation between them and us. Government bodies perceive environmentalists as them. They're the bad guys. They are the spanner in the wheel. Loss of life, loss of health, degeneration, and the rest. And I think, and this comes from a lack of awareness and a lack of understanding. So please tell me, as somebody who has won so many awards for the extraordinary work you've done, you've gone to so many places, you've done such amazing work, what is the one challenge that you always face in convincing the people that you're doing projects for that what you want to do is the right thing to do?
We were just discussing this earlier. When in an architectural project, if 100% is about doing the project right, 5% is doing 1,000 acres to 111,000 acres. That's huge. So what's happening is, Pune used to be this little city that people used to travel 3.5 hours to go. But now, if you leave Bombay and you go towards Pune, it's almost like you haven't left the city, because there's, except for the little mountain in the middle, which you have to cross, Bombay has extended all the way, Pune has extended all the way. In the process, all the natural resources have been removed. And convincing a developer to create landscape spaces that are required is
have you ever told somebody not to build here? That you should not be building here?
I have. Sometimes the site is so beautiful, you don't want to build anything there. But coming back to that, so most developing countries, or most developed countries, have a lot of work which is done by the government, and they do the master plans, and then there are portions and parts.
Profit, which is essentially short-term
Yes.
money, right? But not long-term sustainability, and that is also of their own life
True.
and livelihood.
Just one, उसमें मेरे को क्या फायदा होगा? आपने तो ऐसे कर दिया, तो उसमें मेरे को क्या फायदा होगा? And I want, Vastu correct is more important for me than orienting the windows northwards.
But why should the windows be northwards?
Because
I'm just breaking it down for people who don't understand this to understand it better.
Because throughout the
Further place.
absolutely, look at BKC, look at Gurgaon Meroli, everywhere in India is wrapped around glass. Why do you need it?
It's wrong.
It's completely wrong.
You know, it brings me to a very, very valid thing that I think we should ask of ourselves, given that I'm surrounded by a community that is going to be responsible for building a lot more. I was in West Bengal earlier this year, and I visited the Santhal village. And these are indigenous people, they've been living there for hundreds of years. They have the most sustainable way of living. They live in earthen homes, and architects from across the world come to study their architecture, on how they build and they live. And I was talking to the locals living there, and they were telling me how people from Sweden, from Denmark, from other parts of the world were coming and meeting them and actually taking their artisans away to create the homes that they had built there. Now, in the name of progress and urbanization, what they are threatened with is urban monsters, which is modern buildings coming up in their areas, destroying the natural way of building, which these people have carried forward through possibly centuries of knowledge. And I find that this is becoming glaringly evident in practically every state. If we look at the way the Chettinars build their homes, or we look at the way the Rajasthani architecture is done, or we look at, so historically, we have had knowledge about how to build. Cooler naturally, what materials are more earth friendly, more environment friendly, reduce consumption of power and energy. Because this kind of architecture was developed at a time when there was no air conditioning and there was no central cooling. But these homes were naturally much cooler. What can we do about, because glass buildings are considered cool or fashionable, or it's really a perception game, right? Because people don't believe that a metropolis can qualify as one if we don't have a certain kind of architecture in it. And we kind of, we're dropping our ancient knowledge, we're dropping our existing knowledge and embracing styles that aren't relevant, are not sustainable, and are not manageable as well. And thereby increasing our consumption and waste and all of that. What would you say around that?
Absolutely right.
Walk bare feet on the floor, and it would actually, in the peak of summer, give you a thandak in the feet, which nobody uses anymore. Very few people do.
Yeah, we were doing now where we told the client that we'll have
make all of this cool again. How can we convince new developers, new builders, governments, people that being true to tradition
we
and
need people like
implementing
you.
that. Sorry?
We need people like you.
People like
Yeah, because in India, people take this message across your community and really push it through. Because it is all about awareness. If architects talk, it's not going to be heard, except by other architects. So you need to do it.
Done. I shall use my next opportunity of communication to highlight this. But isn't this thought, doesn't this thought then extend itself to many other aspects that create a gap between what is sustainable, what is good, and what is important? What do you think causes a gap? I believe it's a lack of awareness.
Awareness. Lack of awareness is what causes the gap.
And a false sense of development or progress, aping the Western world.
Completely. So you got
Mr. Manish Srivastava, Head Marketing, Saint Bank, India, Glass Business, to kindly come on stage and present Dia and Sanjay with a memento as a token of our appreciation. Right, Sanjay? They need a photograph. And I think they want a group photograph too. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Dia, first of all, tell us your thoughts, the whole session. What's your view?
You know, the Smart Green Summit is, I think, one of the most pertinent conversations we need to have. And I'm just really grateful to Economic Times for, hosting this. I know that this is not their first year; they've had it in the past as well. But when we speak of development, we speak of urban planning, we speak of economic growth, it's very, very important for us to speak about sustainability, for us to speak about climate change, and for us to mitigate the gap between government systems, policies, rules, and the value system and the principle with which people are building and trying to grow urban centers. Because unfortunately, what we witness as human beings today, especially who inhabit urban development, is that there has been a big gap between the two. Too many rules have been flouted, too many laws have been broken. There is a conscience, there's a corruption in conscience more than anything else that is leading to degradation in the quality of air that we are breathing, the quality of water that we are drinking, and it impacts our health, it impacts our lives, and we have to collectively make the difference. I think a big reason for why we are faced with this problem is because not enough people believe that the consequences of their choices, ill choices, is going to impact their lives directly. And the beauty of this forum is that we don't just highlight how poor choices impact our lives directly, but we also, I think, this platform reinforces the opportunity to innovate, to grow, to find solutions to problems, and truly understand what it means in a holistic sense to be a progressing nation in all its value and all its glory.
So, what are some of the major things you would encourage people to do in an effort to create a cleaner, greener planet?
I think my biggest reiteration through my conversation with Sanjay Puri was the emphasis on the fact that developers, builders, identify a very key thought, which is that when you're building, when you're developing, whatever it is, whatever kind of infrastructure, whether it's housing, whether it's corporate, whether it's roads, highways, whatever it may be, do it from a place of value, do it from a place of principle. Don't just do it for the sake of making money, because the consequences of short-sightedness are large, and it is essential that we start caring more and becoming more responsible as developers.
Lastly, you have been passionate voice for better waste management. Share with us a few thoughts on it.
You know, waste management is one of the most critical issues in urban developments. We seem to forget, even as people who are a part of civil society, that the more we consume, the more we waste. And everything that we bring home has to go somewhere. Whether it is the things that we buy to use. So we need to become more conscious as citizens on our consumption and our waste, and become more responsible about how we treat our waste. I know that we expect the government to implement better waste management systems, but if cooperative housing societies, schools, hospitals, colleges, universities, canteens, hotels, restaurants do not collectively acknowledge the importance of managing their waste better, then governments will not be able to help us, because there is only that much that the government can do. We as citizens need to become more proactive about how we manage our waste, and it starts with basics, which is waste segregation.
dry waste and wet waste. All your kitchen waste can go into the soil. It is biodegradable. It can be converted to compost. It can be converted to energy. But your dry waste can't be, and that can be recycled. So the collection points for recyclable waste have to increase. E-waste collection points have to increase. I have a young boy who calls himself Earthbud on Twitter, who's started a phenomenal campaign. He's one of us. He's a child. He's actually a child, and when Deona dumping ground burning came into the news, and we discovered the chemical component, particulate component in that burning ground thing. He said, 1 second, e-waste is being burnt there. So our wires, our batteries, our gadgets, we're just throwing it, and it's landing up on our dumping grounds, and it's being set ablaze. And all of that in our air means heart disease, means cancer, means ill health to us. So this young boy, all of 14, has been conducting workshops in schools, in universities, encouraging people to collect their e-waste through the year and deposit at the right places. So working with municipalities, working with government, so it's really about participation and awareness. So each of us can and must do our bit.
Dear, lastly, if you could just give the New Year wishes and the Christmas for your viewers.
Sure, of course. 2016 has been a really tough year for a lot of us and a lot of part of the world. I really pray that 2017 is a more peaceful world to live in, is a happier place for all of us to live in, and becomes a place where each of us makes a proactive choice to make a difference and be the difference. So here's wishing all of you a very happy, peaceful and healthy 2017. May all our collective dreams come true, and may we become the change. Thank you.